everybody. How are you doing today? It's another day. Been busy past couple of days. I haven't had a chance to get on, but I'm going to take the time to do that today. All right. If you're awake and you're listening to this, that means God has given you an opportunity to do something for Him. And we always encourage you to do something for God, whatever it might be. But do something. That's better than doing nothing. All right, the title of the lesson is called Closet Christians. You know, we know the phrase, it's time to come out of the closet. We've been hearing that for many years now, and it basically means someone who is doing something which should be shameful, they are no longer ashamed of it and come out and openly practice it. So that's one thing about it. You know, when Jesus said talk to God, He says, don't do it out in the open. Go get in your closet or go into your inner room, and God is there waiting on you. But anyway, many times when a person hides a habit or lifestyle from another individual or a group of individuals, that person is said to be hiding in the closet. I mean, so such is the description given to a homosexual who hides his sin from the rest of the world until finally they say, well, I don't care anymore. I'm going to do it anyway, and I don't care what people say about it. So that they come out of the closet. And, of course, it's not limited to homosexuality either. People may be in the closet about their drinking, adultery, or other habit or practice they do not want others to know about. I mean, I knew a guy who was a wife beater, and he didn't want that getting out. He didn't want the world to know, and, of course, she didn't tell people either. So, I mean, it happens. And so these people could appropriately be called closet drinkers or closet adulterers, closet beaters, or whatever. And so, yeah, things they want to hide from others. See, a Christian's life is not supposed to be hidden. You know, when Jesus was talking there in Matthew chapter 5, 14 through 16, He says, nobody sets a lamp and then hides it under the basket. I mean, but He put it out so everyone in the room can see. All right, so, while it's true that these people have something of which they are ashamed, they're not the only ones who hide their lifestyle from others. I mean, too many times members of the Lord's church hide in the closet about the life that they have chosen to live. Yeah, they become a Christian, but they don't tell anybody about it. They don't share with their friends and their neighbors that they have obeyed the gospel and have turned their life over to God. And why is that? Well, they hide their name and their dedication so that the world will not associate them with the church or with Jesus. So we call these closet Christians. And what they've truly done is hinder the growth and production of the church across not only our nation, but around the world. We're supposed to let our light shine that will bring others to glorify God. God is glorified when we obey Him, when we cause others to do that. God is glorified. And these people who are hiding their Christian faith from the world, they're not doing God any favors. They're not helping God any. And so the salvation that was promised that they have a hope for, they probably will not realize that until they come out and start sharing the gospel with others, sharing what God has done for them. See, people who think and act in this fashion want the comfort of belonging to Christ, but they are not willing to accept the responsibility that comes along with it. Not only that, they feel comforted thinking that God is on their side, but they would never stand up and defend God's name. They would never stand up and defend His doctrine. And so, I mean, or even the church. I mean, if one of their friends started making disparaging comments about the church, yeah, I know what you mean, stuff like that, and they wouldn't defend it. Say, wait a minute, I go to that church. I mean, that's not right to say. You don't know these people. And so it was this very idea that Christ was condemning when He said, therefore, whoever confesses me before men, him I will also confess before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, him I will also deny before my Father who is in heaven. That's Matthew 10:32 and 33. And so we can deny God. We don't have to say, well, I deny God and fit into that category. Basically, keeping our mouth shut and not speaking up when we should is tantamount to the same thing. It is. It really is. And so these are the type of people Jesus was talking about there. Those who are afraid to announce their allegiance to Christ, those who are afraid to announce their participation in a church or anything like that. So, I mean, it happens not only in our youth. I mean, teenagers get a lot of peer pressure, and they know what's coming. If they say, well, I obeyed the gospel and now I'm a Christian, they know what's coming. I mean, they're not idiots. They know there's ridicule and mockery coming from their peers. The people they thought were their friends, all of a sudden going to start deriding them and making fun of them. And so many young Christians will continue to attend worship service, but they will live in the closet the rest of the week. I mean, yeah, they'll go with their parents to church. They'll do that, but they won't take a stand, and they won't try and share Bible understanding or knowledge with anybody. And so many times they never come out of that closet. I mean, for a reason, for fear of persecution, because of peer pressure and ridicule and things like that, and they just don't want to deal with that. And as they grow up, some of them even continue this way. Those who are fully mature Christians, they've gotten beyond that. I mean, there's a transition from a babe in Christ to a mature Christian. There's a lot of learning and instruction that goes into that. And so we have to work towards that. We are constantly commanded to grow in grace and knowledge. You know, 2 Peter 3:18 is a command. It's not a suggestion. It is a command. In fact, there's a lot of commands in the New Testament that people treat as nothing more than just suggestions or options. I mean, there's a lot of things in the Bible people consider as options where God said it was a command. Now, why do people do this? Well, what about this world and its temptations would cause one to revert almost to secrecy when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to holiness, when it comes to righteousness? And if you'll think about it, Christianity, holiness, righteousness, godliness, they all say the same thing. They're all describing the same thing. And so when it comes to Christianity, what causes one to hide and keep it secret? So there's some things missing in the life of what we call a closet Christian. We're going to look at see some of those things. First of all, a closet Christian lacks courage. See, God has always desired and required that his children have courage. And so when the Lord chose an army to deliver his people through Gideon, he told all who were afraid, just go home. I don't need you. In fact, the ones that remained, there were so many of them, God said, well, we're going to have to test them, and we're just going to select a few. So he ended up with an army of 300. But they took care of business with God's help, of course. And so Joshua was told in Joshua chapter 1, 6 through 9, be strong and courageous. First of all, he said, you follow the law which I gave my servant Moses. You don't stray to the right or to the left. You meditate on it day and night. And then do what you're commanded to do. Then I will be with you wherever you go. See, the great King David, even as a youth, had the kind of courage that God expects. This was demonstrated when he fought Goliath the giant, there 1 Samuel chapter 17. And Daniel possessed the courage that God demands when he prayed, knowing he would be thrown into the lion's den. Well, guess what? We must also have courage to be a child of God. And without proper courage, we will become closet Christians. See, second, a closet Christian lacks conviction. Yeah, they may say it in the circle of church friends, but out in the world, they don't do it. So they really lack conviction. And conviction spans deeper than a vocal testimony of God. Now, Jesus said in Matthew 7:21, Not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father in heaven. Yeah, there's a lot of people saying, well, I love Jesus, I love the Lord, and stuff like that, but their actions don't support that. You know, Titus 1:16, they profess to know God, but their deeds deny him. And so it's one thing to say I love Jesus, but proving it and demonstrating it in your life is something different. And that's what is lacking with a person lacking conviction. You know, conviction is defined as a strong persuasion or belief. I mean, certainly one who is convicted will be compelled by his faith in Christ and love for God to follow his commandments. See, if they don't have that conviction, they're not going to follow through with the commandments. They're not going to do what they have been commanded to be done, and then they fall into that category of what Jesus said. They say, Lord, Lord, but they won't enter the kingdom of heaven. And so, if they had conviction, they could never be called a closet Christian. So we might ask the question, how convicted am I? How convicted are you? Do you study the Bible as I should? Do I study the Bible as I should? Do I attend all the services of the local congregation? Do I attend all the classes? Well, do you? See, are we in danger of becoming closet Christians? Well, yeah. If we don't have that type of resolve to be pleasing to God in all respects, I mean, yeah, we're basically becoming closet Christians. And third, a closet Christian lacks correct communication. See, proper communication is essential in any relationship. I mean, the value of communication in our relationship with God is beyond compare. We're talking about prayer. And God communicates with us through his word, and thus, if we do not read and study, as we're told to in 2 Timothy 2:15, then we have broken communication with God. And when we do that, it makes it a lot more difficult for us to talk to God. So we communicate with God by prayer. I mean, it should be fervent prayer. It should be honest, deep prayer that comes from the heart. Not just some, okay, you know, like the famous, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And so, yeah, I mean, we teach children that way, but as they grow and develop, they should get beyond that. They should start bringing their burdens to God and talking to God about these things. And so, Paul stressed the necessity of prayer with these three words, pray without ceasing. You recognize that from 1 Thessalonians 5 and verse 17. So if we cease to pray, we have again broken communication with God. And finally, the closet Christian lacks confidence. He lacks confidence in himself or herself to live the life that they promised to live. And they lack confidence in the Word to help them overcome adversity and temptation. And confidence in God to fulfill the promises he made to those who obey him. Yeah, I mean, that's part of what we do, and as those of us who are faithful, we basically have our confidence in God that he will do what he said he was do. And so far, he's got a pretty good track record. I mean, he's basically 100% truthful and true to what he has promised. And the only things we're waiting on are some of the future promises that we're all looking forward to. That's what gives us our hope. That's what, well, our hope is an expectation based upon certain things. And of course, the fact that God said it should give us that hope. And then, of course, we know all promises are conditional. I mean, let's face it, all promises are conditional. And if you don't make conditions on your promises, then you're kind of being a little bit foolish. So that's what God did. He said, if you will obey me, I will do this for you. And he did. But when they turned their back on him, he withheld his blessings. So when we lose a solid confidence in God or his word, then we are in danger of becoming closet Christians. So let us examine ourselves and ask ourselves, do we lack courage? Or do we lack conviction or the proper communication? Or do we lack confidence? I mean, if you think you're lacking in any of those, well, we got a chance to correct that. See, if we do, we may be in danger of becoming or we've already become a closet Christian. We don't want that to happen. So the only thing a closet Christian does not lack is a place at the judgment. Remember that. They will still stand before God in judgment. And if we have openly lived our commitment to Christ, we're going to be rewarded. But if we have not, if we've hidden it, then we will be condemned. I mean, go away from me, you worthless slave, is what he's going to say. So think about those things and make the resolve to make sure everybody that knows you knows that you are a Christian. You go to church. You believe in what the Bible teaches. You believe in what you hear from the pulpit, and you examine what comes from the pulpit. At least you should be doing so. Don't just take what the preacher says. I mean, you should never do that. But study the scriptures daily to see if what you're being taught is so. And once you determine that is correct, then you apply it to your life and live that way. So think about these things, and Lord willing, be back again with another lesson. Bye-bye for now.